Good morning. It is very timely to flag a new development which is affecting practically all the youngsters in the country. India being a country of young, we are all concerned about the future of jobs. And also, how the skills required for that kind of jobs are going to emerge. It has been called a fourth industrial revolution. It is called 4.0 by Germany, and many countries are adopting it. It is said that USA, France and Japan have already taken very huge steps to take this 4.0 industrial revolution into their fold. And probably the policy changes and the political changes which we saw in USA and recently what was seen in UK and what was probably feared in France are all indicative of also this complexity which is emerging in the manufacturing industry. Some people call it industrial internet, and the kind of technologies which are underlying this change is said to be automation, robotics, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence and additive manufacturing. Now, seamlessly the cyber and physical worlds are emerging as a seamless entity. So between the virtual and the physical, there is no difference now. It is becoming more and more convergent. And this 4.0 industrial revolution is a clear indication that the countries like India or even what has been predicted, the BRICS countries in general, are really fearful of this particular trend, because this takes the jobs away from the kind of geographical supremacy which was seen in low-cost countries to those jobs migrating back to developed nations. And this is a big threat which is being seen. And we examine a bit of how these are affecting our industry, and more importantly, why creativity and innovation are somewhat isolated from this kind of an activity. This is the whole idea that as the industrial 4.0 revolution unravels, the level of automation threat for different industries have been rated by a very interesting report which has come in. I don't know how many of our viewers have seen this report. It's called The Future of Employment and How Susceptible Are Jobs to Computerization. The famous report by Carl Benedict Frey and Michael Osborne. Normally people refer to it as Osborne report. Very interestingly, if you look at the probability of computerization and automation affecting various industries are listed in this from lowest probability down to the highest probability in terms of automation and computerization. So you will find that, for example, choreographers, it is very low probability, 0.004, or set and exhibit designers, it is 0.0055, and training and development managers, and civil engineers, architects, and interestingly fashion designers, 0.021, and interior designers, 0.022, craft artists, 0.035, and landscape architects, 0.045, floral designers, 0.047, and it goes on. And on the other spectrum, the high end of computerization or automation which will happen are also listed, and that is very scary when we look at our own industry of apparel. For example, textile knitting and weaving machine setters, operators and tenders, they have been rated as 0.73 in probability in terms of it becoming automated and the labor displacement happen. Pressers, textile, garment and related materials, 0.81 with very high probability. And tailors, dressmakers and custom sewers, 0.84. Sewing machine setters, operators, tenders, etc., 0.86. And cutting and slicing machine setters, operators, etc., 0.86. And it goes on to say that these are really high level of possibility of getting displaced by automation, robotics, and various other revolutions which are happening. So what we need to look at is, it is very interesting that this book published by Prentice Hall called Garment Exports Winning Strategies. It was a 1997 book. It was published in 1997. The research before that happened between 1994 and 94. Practically, the research got over, and the book took time to write, and it was published in 1997. So why I'm bringing this book is written by me, and it was done with a huge amount of research, because it covered several of India's importing nations as well as a sample of exporters, and it looked at all the major items which India used to export, and it concluded. We are sitting at the 20 years, 2 decades later than the book has been published. It is 2017, and the book was published in 1997. So what did the book say? The book, last page of the book, 254 page number, and it calls for strategies for competitive advantage. Now, how does this all link to this page? We say that there is a Industrial Revolution 4.0. We have seen that its impact is affecting BRICS nations, and detailed studies are taking place on Korea, Japan, Germany, USA, how these are really unraveling going forward. The skill level is getting changed. And we have seen the automation, robotics, and advanced manufacturing, which are affecting the probability of getting affected, is being listed. And we have seen that the area of creativity and innovation are somewhat very less likely to get affected in the short term. It is probably even the medium term. Long term, some of it might get affected, but still it is a very long way off from what the current generations are facing. And this, diagram summarized what was the positioning I had recommended to the Indian apparel industry in 1994 when the research got completed in 8 importing countries, and covering over 100 importers and about 100 exporters in India. So it was a comparison between what the exporters' perceptions are and what the importers' perceptions are, and where does the gaps lie in the spider diagrams which were created far ahead in that time in order to, as a technique. And the research concluded the only way India will survive is by having Indian positioning as a creative marketer of quality apparel. I didn't even say it should be a full manufacturer of quality apparel, but I said that it should be design, delivery, service related to creative marketer of quality of apparel. And it was projected how it can be done. And it strengthens this argument, because we have created a very large export manufacturing industry, and some of it recently I am told that, for example, Shahi exports almost 10% of a large retailer total manufacturing in the country is now done by Shahi Exports, which was only an export manufacturer earlier. And many of the Indian exporters are beginning to supply to the domestic large-scale retailers who are looking for manufacturing capacity. And they are not yet promoting any brands. They are just suppliers to other retailers who are becoming very large in the country. And in the countries abroad where they were supplying for other well-known labels and brands. And hardly any one of them really understood the marketing of garments abroad in terms of positioning them in retail store and promoting their labels. It is not that there has been no impact, and in fact the previous book of mine, the apparel, effectiveness of export marketing of apparel, did deal with some of the successful brands which were promoted by certain companies in India, in UK and Germany, which included Sorel and few brands like that. But unfortunately, these experiments were few and far between, and it did not fructify. What I am surprised today is that this whole book tried to tell that between 1997 to 2005, when quotas were going away, the premium which was there already in the pricing, because the premium which India was paying to the manufacturers as quota premium was going to disappear, and then the margins will be under pressure, and low cost is not going to be a long-term competitive advantage, and therefore becoming a creative manufacturer or creative marketer of quality apparel in terms of production and the focus on design needs to be brought in was said so early. Unfortunately, I don't think many of the people have listened to this advice, and you can see that we have been struggling at $16.7 billion US dollars, or this year probably will cross 17.1 billion, where Bangladesh, for example, which is about 32 billion, and Vietnam probably, which has already crossed 21 billion, are far ahead of the game now, with China's exports crossing about $179 billion. So we are just about 10% of China's total exports. So that shows that the strategy of focusing on low cost and only purely manufacturing and logistics has not worked. And we have not been able to move up in unit value realization. I was talking to a garment exporter and asking them, what is the unit price that you're getting? Because when this book was written, it was about $4 to $5, and probably it has just migrated to about $5 to $6 at best. And still, our unit value realization across the country of the garments exported are still in that vicinity only. So this shows that there is a need for re-examining in the context of sustainable fashion, in the context of low carbon footprint fashions in the world, taking a positions like Sri Lanka did with garments without guilt, having done for nearly 3 decades of promotion. That country, though it is only doing about $4 to $5 billion, it has got a very clear niche in the world market, where when they look at ethical and very dependable kind of source of supply.